More Darkseid pursuing Wonder Woman, this time featuring Braniac. Now recently we took a look at the episode The Bride of Darkseid from the Super Friends, because I'd been exploring the Super Friends because of some of those online jokes about Darkseid being in love with Wonder Woman, and that's why her lot is seemingly a tad better in the absolute universe. It's just kind of fun online things, tracking back to where things start. As someone less steeped in the Super Friends, I dove in because sometimes it's just fun to watch cartoons. And from that episode I came out slightly underwhelmed, and so also looked at the Darkseid deception. But I also said, if there are any other episodes with even better moments, let me know, because you know I'd love to watch them. Well, those in my audience who watch Super Friends were on the case. They had episode recs and promises that there's a cumulative effect, that it builds. You gotta sit with it a bit, let it marinate, let Darkseid in, let him sit on your couch for a bit, spend some time, let him leave an imprint. And I have to say they were right. 10 out of 10 meme, 100% simped from Darkseid to Wonder Woman in the Super Friends. It was already amusing conceptually, but it does build when you go through a bunch of the episodes, and some of the instances do stick out, to the point where I can see why it was so memorable for some. An episode that was recommended to me multiple times was The Wrath of Braniac from 1984, because that's the season when Darkseid debuted. The Super Friends, the legendary superpowers show season. And this episode also ended up being very interesting from a comic history perspective, so let's take a look at it. I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics, and what can I say? I'm having fun watching the Super Friends. It's not perfect, in fact at times it can be downright rough, but it's still entertaining to look back at. And there are some solid episodes in there. You just gotta kind of find them. The Wrath of Braniac is the first part of a half-hour episode. Overall, season 8, episode 2. So that means we're looking at a 10-11 minute-ish outing. Now, you can actually add a lot of lore and depth into 10 minutes. This does not, but you can. What this episode does do, however, is provide the first animated look at the new robotic Braniac design, which debuted in Action Comics 544 in 1983. It's the same issue where Lex gets his new battle armor, moving on from the battle array, which was what he was wearing in the Super Friends earlier. Now, we've looked at the battle armor story recently because we did a retrospective on Lex's wife Ardora, and she dies in that issue in the story Luthor Unleashed, along with their son, Lex Jr., and all of the planet Lexor. The second story, Rebirth, is where we get a new Braniac. Now, while Braniac had been revealed to be a robot/android, sometimes they vacillate in terminology, back in Superman 167 in 1964, he still had the green-skinned alien look, and that is the look they've ultimately returned to. But for a time, he did have this much more overtly robotic look. Now, both stories in 544 are strong reimaginings. In the Braniac one, his body is destroyed and he has to recompile himself, and he also gets a new ship. The thing is, the year being 1983, it's only a couple years out from Crisis on Infinite Earths, and so these new kind of setups for Lex and Braniac, they just kind of get undone. But some of that imagery of that Braniac, it sticks around. It's certainly memorable. Now, there is also a toy aspect to this, and this we're talking about designs for the Kenner Superpowers toy line. Now, for the battle suit, it goes toy comic show in terms of production. George Perez designed the power suit for Lex for the Kenner line, and then it's adapted into the comics. I've seen it attributed to Jack Kirby sometimes, although that seems to be a misattribution. He was involved in the first pitch to Kenner in 1982, but that was redesigning his Fourth World characters. And also he was heavily involved in the Superpowers comic, which starts coming out in 1984. But Braniac's redesign, from what I could tell, goes comic show toy. And while Rebirth the story is written by Marv Wolfman with art by Gil Kane, colors Gene D'Angelo, it is Ed Hannigan who designed the new Braniac, and the design was later adapted to the toy line rather than being commissioned for it first, or so it seems. Either way, you do end up with a Kenner toy with that design. And this episode itself does make reference to the fact that Braniac does look different. So enough yapping. On to the episode. Also, if you're asking, why are you wearing that wig? It doesn't suit your skin tone. I have blonde blindness and I don't want to be cured. Let me have this. The episode opens in space with Darkseid, Desaad, and Kalibak. Darkseid is planning to go back to Apocalypse to plot. That's when Desaad spots Wonder Woman's ship in space. And in a moment that really sells the Darkseid obsession, he lightly mocks Darkseid for it.
Wonder Woman? Alone?
I thought you would be interested.
We must not lose her.
They follow Wonder Woman into a strange skull tentacle ship, because what could go wrong with space tentacles or regular tentacles? Nothing. Only wholesome things. They do simplify the design here, but it does look good. It's still cool. I'd want that toy. They Stargate, not boom tube inside, and then they do some recycled Scooby-Doo animation sneaking. This was a Hanna-Barbera production after all. And as they explore, they encounter Braniac, the new Braniac, and he can't be bargained with. He can't be reasoned with. That's actually not true. But he does not feel pity or remorse or fear. That part's true. Jokes aside, this design predates the Terminator.
I have been recircuited and shed of my human appearance.
My legs are no longer cold. Now, Braniac has made android duplicates of Superman and Wonder Woman, and the Wonder Woman one was specifically made because he knew that would lure Darkseid. This episode is really selling the concept that this is just a thing.
My Wonder Woman lured you right to my ship.
I'm so glad people sent this episode my way. It has so much more of that energy that I was expecting when people were joking about this. It feels like the entire universe is roasting Darkseid for being a simp in this, and I'm here for it. Now, Darkseid is needed here so that his Omega beams can engulf the androids and fully activate them. And Darkseid decides that it's a good idea to align with Braniac because he's a machine. A machine will make a solid, reliable ally.
In this universe of treacherous living creatures, Braniac may be our one perfect ally.
Meanwhile, actually the narrator doesn't say meanwhile today, while on patrol, Superman, Batman, and Robin are attacked by the android Wonder Woman, and she gets them. Whereas Wonder Woman and Firestorm are attacked by the android Superman.
Huh? You're not the Man of Steel. You're just a hunk of skin.
So all of the Super Friends appearing in this episode captured. The others busy. It's all going very well from a villain perspective, but then Darkseid ruins it. He was right. Braniac as a machine does prove to be a very loyal ally. It's him. He's bringing the unreliable factor. Because he goes up and starts talking to Wonder Woman, trying to chat her up, saying that he'll free her if she'll become his bride. Gaston level nonsense.
I alone can save you from Braniac if you are willing to be my bride.
Holy proposals!
I like that in this episode, he wants her to be his bride, but in the Bride of Darkseid, he wants her to be his queen. I mean, I guess queen also implies bride, but you would think that he would have said it at least once in that episode. It was in the title. Now, Wonder Woman says yes, under duress, if he'll free her friends, and that's good enough for him.
I agree, Darkseid, but only if you free my friends.
No, Wonder Woman.
Darkseid will take that yes however he gets it, or he'll turn into a crystal statue. We saw that in the Darkseid Deception. The funniest thing about this is that he just instantly goes and says he'll ask Braniac, and it's just, why did he think that Braniac would agree to this? So you know the whole plan, the whole reason we did this? What if we didn't? She'd show up and be like, Braniac, will you be my best man? No, they're not that close. Braniac can be Lex's best man. Actually, he can't, because that's Superman. We've seen that happen. He can be a groomsman. Of course, Braniac doesn't go for it.
Your emotions for Wonder Woman do not compute, but I shall teach you to listen to reason.
Now, Batman figures out that the cells are all connected and sees that it's at a certain console, so Wonder Woman can throw her tiara at it and then they can be free. Then it's one of those confusing kerfuffle fights at the end. There's all this smoke in the air, it's green. But Calabac is a dutiful son and grabs Wonder Woman for his father, and maybe now Darkseid will love him. Well, maybe he would if he hadn't grabbed the android. All laugh. Darkseid undone by his desires. So that's the wrath of Braniac. All of Braniac's wrath should be directed at Darkseid. Now, as far as Super Friends episodes go, this one is fairly pedestrian. It stands out more from a historical context because of some of the things therein than for the plot, because you get to see this new version of Braniac. But it's a very simple outing otherwise. The two team up, they try to capture the team, it doesn't work. Now, as for the reason it doesn't work, which is Darkseid and his love of Wonder Woman, which means from a memeing perspective of the whole Darkseid Wonder Woman ship, this is an excellent episode. 10 out of 10. Far more juice than the Bride of Darkseid, in my opinion. I liked it in the Darkseid Deception too. And I'm now sold on the building effect of this, because indeed in the next episode, the first part was another episode that was recommended to me. In the episode No Honor Among Thieves. And in that, he does propose to her again, but she says no.
Even though you have lost your powers, I will still consider accepting you for my queen.
Thanks, but no thanks.
She learned her lesson. Even if she said yes, it's not like he can do anything. All of his cred shot. The thing is, the more I get into it, the more I can see why this kind of stuck around, or why you might remember it. Especially if one was coming off of the comics and a bit more of a menacing Darkseid, but more menacing than this. I can also see why it's re-emerged as a joke over time. It's low-key fun. Now, some were pondering in the comments of the last video if Grail, Darkseid's daughter, who you see emerge in the New 52, is a reference to this because her mom is an Amazon. Now, Jeff Johns, who created Grail, has talked about the Super Friends being his favorite cartoon, so there is a potential that maybe that's where it arose from. Now, of course, you do have some Darkseid and Wonder Woman comic interactions, but even when they're interesting, and there are a few that are, there's even the one that I showed the image of in the last video where they explore the ship and the whole DCAU kind of verse, but none of them have the same Super Friends vibe. I mean, how could they? The Super Friends is unique. After that, there were just some people who were recommending episodes. People really want to talk about The Fear, and that is an episode I've seen, and it is very solid, and it's also significant. So if you want to talk about that, let me know, because I'm kind of just having fun doing these more casual Super Friends things for a little bit. Last time I asked for Darkseid Wonder Woman Rex, now I just want to hear what are some of your favorite episodes, or if you just don't think that this show held up, because I saw some of that too. Please share all your thoughts, do the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification, hype, whatever the YouTube is doing at this point. Thanks so much for taking this time to spend discussing comics with me and comic adjacent things, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.